If you are on the verge of or in the middle of a healing and transformational process and you're asking yourself the question, how long is it going to take? That is the wrong question to be asking. And I understand why that would be a question that you would ask, because as you step into something, you want healing, you want transformation, you want change, and you want to make sure you're investing your time and energy in the right way. The problem is that isn't actually a useful question. And there is a question that is way more useful than that. Today, as we continue our Healing and Transformational Fundamentals series, we are going to explore the question that I think is so much more valuable in understanding the transformational process, and it's going to make it easier to heal, and it might even make the process fun. This is Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 581, originally aired October 11th, 2023. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting to join me. Thanks for spending a little time with me today as we continue our Healing and Transformational Fundamentals series. Today, I'm going to share with you a question that I think is so much more useful and a way of evaluating what we're doing that will not only help you to create healing faster, but it's going to make you more engaged with the process. And as we do this, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite tools for creating that transformation and evaluation. That's called tapping. If you are new to tapping, all you need to do is follow the little red arrow in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to learntotap.com. So as we are talking about this particular tool set, how we get feedback and how we create transformation, you're going to know exactly what's going on. Over the course of the last 15 years, as I've worked with clients, I've had lots and lots of conversations with people who I've introduced tapping to, and lots of people who are looking for one-on-one support in the work that they're doing. And the question that they ask over and over again is the question I mentioned at the top of this episode, and that is, how long is it going to take? And whenever I am asked that question, I always end up in a circumstance where I give the least useful, least favorite coaching answer in the history of the world. And that answer is, well, it depends. So much so that sometimes when people ask me that question, they say, I know you can't answer this question, but how long is it going to take for me to create the healing and transformation that I want? And I sympathize with that question. If you have ever had that question, I don't want you to feel judged. I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong. But the problem is that as we are looking forward, as we are trying to predict the future, because that's what that question is we are working with incomplete information. Because the reality is, no matter what symptoms you are reporting, no matter how many times I have worked with those particular symptoms or that particular issue, because of the nature of the work of transforming the stories that we have in our subconscious mind, we're working with incomplete information. Because you and I could have the exact same issue and you and I could have the exact same symptoms, except for the fact that we're also carrying our entire experience as a human along with those symptoms, along with that particular experience. And so there are many times that I am working with a client and we think it's issue A, and all of a sudden we look under the covers of what's actually going on in the subconscious mind and we find something significantly bigger that takes so much more time. I've also seen it go the other way as well, where we thought it was something that was really, really big. And after a little investigation, we realized we completely overestimated the problem and it was actually much smaller, and the transformation happened quicker than they ever imagined. And so if looking forward, if trying to predict the future is something we can't do in the transformational process, then how is it that we can evaluate? How is it we can stay engaged with what's going on? And for me, the way I do that is I replace the question, how long is it going to take, with the question, how's it working for you? And when I ask that question, I'm saying, the thing that you are trying, how is it working for you? And if that thing is working really, really well, we want to keep doing that and we want to double down on it. If it's not working, then we want to start asking questions. And so that might make sense on a macro big picture level, but I also think it's really important that we look at it in a micro level. Like, what does that look like moment to moment when we are doing transformation? And so let's look at it through the lens of tapping. So oftentimes when we do a round of tapping, we tune into an issue, we feel the intensity of what's going on. Many practitioners will even use a SUDS level. SUDS is subjective unit of distress, where they'll go 0 to 10. 0 is no distress. 10 is the most distressed you've ever experienced. How big is this? And so it could be a physical pain where it's a 5, this muscle in my back, or it could be anger and it's a 7 because I'm seeing red and I'm really intense. And so we're creating this baseline of a starting point. Then we use a tool. For me, it's tapping. We do some tapping, and at the end of that round of tapping, the hope is we are better. We are healed. We are moving forward. And that's not always the case. And so for me, as we're looking at transformation, as we're trying to chart a path forward, for me, there are 3 possible outcomes that are pretty standard after we use tapping or any sort of transformational tool at all. Outcome number 1 is it actually gets better. That anger that was a 7 is now a 4.5. That pain that was a 5 is now a 2.5. Or the anger has become frustration. So it's still a negative emotion, but it's not emotion as bad. And so when we get that first response, when we get it getting better, then we know we are on the right path. And we have 2 options at that point. We can either continue down that path to create even more healing and more transformation, or we can be in a circumstance where we're like, ooh, I'm satisfied and I am done in this particular moment creating transformation. So that's outcome number 1. Outcome number 2 is the intensity and the pain can actually get worse. Now, I want you to be very, very clear as you hear this. I'm not telling you that you're seeking out more pain, and I want you to be safe in no matter what tool and protocol that you're using in your life. But if the intensity goes up, what that actually means is we're not making it worse, but instead we're getting more understanding of what is going on. We're more tuned into what is at hand. Take, for example, I have a knee injury. I could walk around all day with this knee injury, and what happens is at a certain point in my mind, let's say it's not excruciating, but it hurts, my mind is able to start tuning out the pain that is in my knee. The exact same way if you and I were sitting in a coffee shop and we're having a conversation, there could be a conversation going on at the next table, but my mind realizes that's not useful information for our conversation, so my mind is able to filter out the information from their conversation because it's not useful to me in the moment. The pain is the exact same thing. As I navigate my day, I'm not doing anything about my knee. And so as long as I'm not putting super extreme stress on it, the mind turns down the signal. So I'm no longer noticing the pain in my knee. Much like right now, if you are wearing socks and I say you are wearing socks, all of a sudden you just noticed your socks. It wasn't that they weren't touching your foot and I said socks and now they're magically touching your foot. Instead, what happened is you have been turning off the information of the touch of the socks because it's not useful information until you tune into it. So when we are working on an issue, when we are trying to create transformation, when that intensity goes up, what we're doing is we're noticing it more. All day, I don't notice the pain in my knee. I come home, I sit down on the couch at the end of the day, I go, long day. And all of a sudden, my knee starts to throb. Now, sitting on the couch did not hurt my knee, but all of a sudden, I'm giving it attention again. So if you are doing a transformational process, and as you tune into it, the intensity grows, even though that feels not very good, it means we're on the right path. There are times when I'm angry, when I start to describe something that went wrong in my day, a customer service experience, a flight that got canceled, something. And as I'm telling that story out loud, I can feel as I re-engage with the anger and frustration. And so as I tell you the story, the intensity goes up. I'm not making it worse in that moment, but I'm noticing it. So outcome number 2 is it gets worse. But that's good news because it means we're on the right path. And almost always, if we're using a good tool set, what's going to happen is the pain, the intensity is going to go up, then the tool set's going to start kicking in and it's going to go down. The third outcome is absolutely nothing changes. So if it gets better, we're on the right path. If it gets worse, it's uncomfortable, but we're on the right path because we're tuning in. If it stays the same, it means we're not on the right path. And that might feel like it is unfortunate because I've spent time and I've spent energy trying to create transformation, but it is information. So when we try something, instead of asking, how long is it going to take? If we ask the question, how's it working for you? And then we give it a try, it now becomes an experiment. And I really love the idea of stepping into transformation as an experiment. Now, with an experiment, what we do is we have an hypothesis that we're going to do an experiment and we're going to test it out in the experiment. Now, a poorly constructed experiment is just going to validate my preconceived notions, and it's not actually a good experiment. A well-constructed experiment might disprove the thing that I thought was true. And as disappointing as it is, because my hypothesis is not true, I now have some more understanding of what is going on. I do a round of tapping on an issue, and before the round of tapping and after the round of tapping, it stays exactly the same. It is an experiment. I have an issue. My hypothesis is this is the underlying cause. The tool set I have access to is tapping. I'm going to use tapping to go after that underlying cause to get relief. That's my experiment. And I then get feedback from that experiment. And again, sometimes that can be disappointing, but for me, transforming every round into tapping into an experiment, in addition to helping me to assess, am I getting better? Is it more intensity? Am I staying the same? But it also takes some of the pressure off because I'm able to enter in with a sense of curiosity. This is the issue. This is the cause I'm going to go after. This is the tool set that I'm using. And then at the end of that, I get feedback. And if I approach it as not this has to work or am I doing it right, but instead this is feedback from that particular approach, then it guides my next action. How's it working for you? If it's working for you, great, keep doing it. If it's not, change something up. And so you can see how we're changing our direction of our orientation. We're not looking into the future. How long is it going to take for me to be healed? We're looking into the past and we're going, what did I just learn? And for me, not only is that more helpful, but when I have a sense of curiosity, boy, I wonder what's going on here, I am able to engage with the process in a way that has less pressure. Now, as I say this, it doesn't mean I do this every single time. As I say this, I don't always have a sense of curiosity. There are times I'm super frustrated at how slow the transformation is because I just want to be better. Like that is a very human experience. And when that happens, I tap on the frustration for the process, then I return to the process. But by looking through this particular lens, what it does is it puts me into a position where I'm much more likely to gather useful information from my transformation, and I'm able to do it in a way where I'm curious, I am not desperate. So that is our next learning fundamental. It's a very simple question. How is it working for you? Whatever you are doing, look at it as an experiment. When you do that, it's going to be so much easier to understand what's going on so that it's not just about what has happened, but you know what to do next. And when we know what to do next, or we have an idea of the direction to go next, it makes it create momentum. So more healing and more transformation happens. And that's the reason why we've put together this entire Healing Fundamental series. It is an opportunity for you to understand the different ways to heal and transform so that every single time you sit down to tap or do whatever else you do, it's going to happen faster. On the screen right now, you can actually see a link to the entire playlist of every single one of the fundamentals. Click on that playlist, work your way through all 20 of these little understandings. They've transformed the way I create healing, and I hope they will do the same for you. For Tapping Q&A, this is Monterastelli. Hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.